Thank you, Susie. Thank you all for being here. This is our first broker forum of 2025. And our agenda today, we're going to hear from Val and Alan on title pirates first. And I'm going to let you guys come sit here and you can give us your spiel.
It's a spiel.
Yes.
Absolutely. Can you guys who are on Zoom, can you see the PowerPoint?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, perfect.
What's the Alan, I'm going to ask you to do the introduction since you're the one who managed to mention this, and then we made eye contact with Susie, and then ended up here.
So what precipitated us being here today was a couple of weeks ago, a day before I was sitting at a Forms Committee meeting, Zoom meeting, and I was contacted by an agent by text who asked me to take a look at something. She was a little suspicious about a listing that she'd been asked to take. And I texted her real quickly back without knowing a thing. I said, trust your gut, don't do anything till I call you back. And what had happened, and we'll talk about it in the slide here, basically, is she was contacted to list a piece of property for sale, vacant land and property. And we quickly, in about 20 minutes, half hour, was able to determine that she was being scammed. And so I brought that up at the meeting because the agent that this happened to said she'd never even heard of title pirates, which is what this is so prevalent that actually has a name.
He's speaking of the Forms Committee meeting this came up.
Yeah, it came up with the Forms Committee. So Susie asked, and Val had experienced something very similar. And since we had both two attorneys in Southeast Connecticut encountered the same situations on more than one occasion, we were asked to come here and address it with you and kind of bring you up to speed as to what's happening up there.
One of the things I have to say is I was kind of surprised that we had been encountering agents who didn't know about this. Because this particular case is the case from Fairfield that I was of the opinion everybody knew about. And this is where there was a piece of vacant land, a fraudster impersonated the seller, and the buyer of the property partially constructs the house before it is found out that the purchase was done without the knowledge of the true title holder. So this is the case, and I'm going to let you know that when we have these cases, let me just go back. When we have et al. On there, we notice that we have cases that we are referencing. One is the buyer, Skytop Partners LLC is the buyer of the property. Hattiesburg is the real title holder. Skytop Partners then sues the attorney who represented the fraudster seller. So Anthony Manelli is an attorney who is a real estate attorney. We're going to give you a little bit more here. Notice we've got et al. on these, okay? That being said, that means and others. And who are the other people? You, okay? Who are the other people in that particular case? The one that was on the news, the one that has been really carried across the country. The other people are the real estate professionals, and I know who they are, and the title insurance company. So understand that when the attorneys are doing closings and we're saying we have to go back to the title company, they're really in it with us. It's something that the buyer pays for, but they are in it with us. And they too can be affected by our actions, and they're not really happy about it when that happens. So that's who the other people are. Now, this Gettysburg case is not a happily ever after case. All of the materials I am going to show you with respect to this case are from a CBA class that I happen to teach with Anthony Manelli. So this is not a fly-by-night attorney. This is not an attorney that wasn't valued at the bar. This is not an attorney who never did a closing and you know you've run into them and they really don't know the rules of the road. This is somebody who knew the rules of the road. This is somebody who is like the Fairfield version of us. You know, the person that the association sometimes would call the person that, you know, is kind of the go-to for a closing that will go smoothly. So I'm not defending him, but I also need to let you know that we did not have best practices for how to handle these circumstances until Anthony got caught. So even in trying this case, in trying to say to him what he did wrong, it was difficult because as we go through the slides, and Alan's already seen them ahead of time, as we go through the slides, they sound very, very familiar. There's nothing, as I say on this slide, out of the ordinary. The seller engages a realtor to assist him to list his vacant land. The realtor refers the closing to an attorney with whom that person had done business before. The seller cooperates with everything the attorney requests and even provides copies of identification. The attorney prepares a power of attorney to himself from the seller. It's a lot easier to get one document signed if they are traveling than to send them a package and have them not get it right. You know, it's pretty easy to get one done. The seller gets the power of attorney acknowledged at the U.S. consulate. Okay. The seller, who happens to be an expatriate, engages a realtor to list the vacant land he inherited. We already said that in the last slide. Okay. The realtor refers the closing attorney. Okay, look at what I say parenthetically. It's somebody they know each other. The seller cooperates with everything the attorney requests and provided copies of identification. Is there anything that's a big red flag for anybody here? And the answer is no. And the attorney provides the seller with a power of attorney to himself. And as we said, that's easier because the seller is not going to be present. So still there's nothing unusual. The attorney conveys the property to a buyer who's a builder, and the builder's going to build on it and then sell it. The builder constructs a house on the land. The seller gets the money. The buyer builds a house to resell and makes money. The attorney gets paid. The realtors get paid, and the title insurance company makes a premium. Does anything sound weird yet?
No, may I
Okay.
ask a question?
Yeah.
I'm assuming that they check the land records and the documents they're getting from the alleged seller match the land records?
We should also point out that Attorney Manelli was not in cahoots with anyone in this. It was a completely innocent participant. Yeah.
Okay, and I'm gonna say something. You're asking, what does the seller have on the land record? What would the seller have on the land records if they were
Their
named?
name and address.
Other than that, that's it. What else? What you're comparing a name and address, and how did he get around the address? I'm traveling. I travel for work. I'm traveling. We've all heard it before, right? We've also had the people who say, and we even know attorneys who, I'm sorry, I'm in our Sweden office. There are very plausible explanations for why people aren't going to be there. As far as the records, yeah, there was a title insurance policy issued on this. So you're not only looking at the seller's attorney, but who else is in the mix? The buyer's attorney.
Yeah.
And there's nothing that's getting anyone,
You'll see here in a moment that things got missed.
Okay, what really happened? Fraudulent seller,
Question over here.
go on.
Where did the money go?
The money went to the bad actor.
Yeah, to a Swiss bank account or you go to?
It went to a bank account, and we're gonna talk about that. We're gonna talk about, it went to a bank account, and we're gonna talk about, just that very issue, okay? Fraudulent seller in another country purportedly South Africa, but no one is sure. And they gave the realtor to list the property. Yep, that's what really happened. Realtor refers the attorney. We've already said that. Attorney requests copies of identification and wire instructions and receives them. The attorney provided a power of attorney, which the seller provides, was fraudulent, with an acknowledgement from the U.S. consulate. The buyer's attorney reviews the POA. Did the title insurance company review it? We don't know. But the title insurance company is the one who ultimately pays out on this. So maybe,
There's people that need to be in the
oh, I don't see that, I don't think God at the top. Sorry.
Was the agent in this situation an experienced agent?
Yes, yeah, there's nothing, that's why I'm saying we didn't come up with anything that appears to be.
I've had this happen several times, but there were red
And
flags.
remember what I, well, there may have been, but when we think about it, in our idea of red flags now, you were born out of this case.
Yes, absolutely.
And there's things that this case, we weren't even on notice to look for red flags until this. So, again, and it was very hard when they were trying to, pursue the attorney to determine, what did he do wrong? Because no one ever thought of this till now. The attorney conveys the property to the buyer, who's a builder who constructs a house on the land. Months later, the fraud is discovered, the house is 75% completed. The real title holder sues the buyer and the attorney in federal court. The buyer sues everybody in state court, and everybody again is included to the real estate. How did this happen? We don't really know, and I didn't realize this was gonna come out that small, so I'm gonna put my glasses on for this one. How did the fraudster pick that particular property? We have no idea. How did the fraudster pick the listing company and the realtor? Absolutely unknown. How did the attorneys not know it was fraud? We're kind of telling you. How would they know with what they are asking for and what's being produced? How did the fraudster fake a passport, wire instructions, and U.S. consulate acknowledgements? Notice what I say in there parenthetically, it's easy if you know how to. Wow. It's easy if you know how to, and I don't know about Alan, but I think Alan and I have both been to classes now where they try to test us. Can you tell when it's fraudulent? That never used to really be in my, wheelhouse, to determine, to be like a private investigator, but we now have processes we need to follow and things we need to look at. But again, one of the things you're going to get from this is the criminals are smarter than all of us who think like good moral people. And then the very last question is, how did the buyer's attorney miss this? And I think what we're going to be able to say is there's not enough data for a buyer's attorney to catch on that there's a problem. They're looking at the very same documents that the seller's attorney was looking at. Okay, look what I said. The same way the attorney for the seller missed it, everything looked okay, and the attorneys knew and trusted one another. Another little problem. When you ask for problems, it's not a problem. There are things, if it will make your transaction go, and we are not putting our clients in jeopardy, there are things that I might do with Alan and Alan might do with me, and we might do with John, and, name a couple of the other people. Alan and I have known each other, I hate to say this because we're only 35. Alan and I have known each other for 35 years, so apparently we were both born in the same place. And Alan and I have actually known each other. We're not gonna say that. You get what I'm saying? There's a familiarity, you kind of trust one another. The next question that's out there, how did the buyer's title insurance company miss this? Before the fact, they may not have seen it. Who knows? Most of us now practice that we have the title policy done by, not that the policy's not done by, but the title search is done by the title insurance company now, instead of us having our own searchers, or hiring a private searcher. And the reason is the liability. If there's a problem with the search, we look right back at the title insurance company and say, you did it. Don't come to us anymore, you've done it. So had the buyer's title insurance company miss it? What are they looking at that would give them an idea? And what are they looking at?
Valerie sends me a deed. She sells attorney on buyer's attorney. She got the client from Maryland. Maryland had her client go to a notary, get something acknowledged. It comes down the line now. I'll put all place in. These are all legit people.
These are legit people.
I'm good.
And that's what this was. These are all legit people. We all know each other. We all know each other. We do business regularly. And the thought process behind that is we have to see each other. So why would we purposely
Trying to pull fast one.
trying to pull a fast one, defy each other. It'll come back. It will never do business together again. There's a whole lot of downside to it. So there's no upside for any of these people to be, part of the bad actor, okay? The outcome. The case was settled amongst the parties confidentially. So we really don't know who got what and what went where. And I'm telling you what the issues were.
We know one thing.
Right.
The bad guy got $275,000.
Right, that's the one thing we do know.
Yeah.
Okay, the title holder did get paid for the land. All right, he got the sales price of the land.
The actual owner.
The actual owner. He got he got the sales price of the land. Notice how that's worded.
Did the title company?
But neither Alan.
We don't know.
We don't.
We don't know who paid
Okay,
what.
Because it's confidential.
And we also don't know what got paid for the land meant. Because if you remember at the beginning, we said it was listed for less than what a piece of property in Fairfield County should have sold for, potentially.
Red flag.
The red flag that,
I don't know if we said that, but that was one of the red flags here, is that the property was listed for 20% below
what market value,
fair market value.
market value, but.
And he wanted a cash buyer.
And no sign,
And
no sign on the property.
that may, I don't know if that's true, but it might have been,
That's what they
because the way I think this got discovered, in an article I read, the owner came back to the house. He lived next door, sold his house, kept the vacant land, hoping someday that if he came back, and one of his kids wanted to live there, they'd have to play. I think it was the neighbor that tipped them off. Now, in conversation, by happenstance, I see the development going on across the street at your old house, and then that's because he was doing,
He was
New York.
But here's the next great mystery, I hate to say this, is that really what went down, or is that the story that put him in the place? Because notice that the title holder got paid. We don't know by whom, and we don't know how much. The buyer and the builder kept the property, which was resold according to the plan, and the fraudster kept the money. So we went through there. All right. Lessons learned and red flags. Again, they really started to come to light post this case. The seller can't or won't meet with someone in person. We're gonna add can't or won't have some sort of meeting where we can see them and hear them, right? The property is selling below market value and has no encumbrances. The client insists on using his own notary or somewhere where the use of a notary can't be dictated or controlled by the attorney. Addresses don't match. Okay, we've got a tax bill, we know where you live, but you're telling us you're not there right now. That's entirely possible. There's a great, think of how many people just here live in the Hartford area during the winter, and they actually live down here during the summer. It's not unusual for people to live in different states.
Can I take a picture of this?
Sure. You can get the whole thing from Susie.
All right, I just want to share with you.
We don't have any,
Is this something that you're gonna present to the agents, not just the brokers?
no, we were asked to do this and we threw this together in exactly 5 days.
This should be really,
It's for you guys to share with your
Yeah.
people.
yeah, but unfortunately, it doesn't get out to everyone.
Of course, you can always ask Valerie and or Alan to come to your office and share this.
We haven't seen each other in person since before the COVID.
And you said this would be available for PowerPoint to us?
Yes. Here's the deal. The red flags are also obvious now. Inordinate rushing, really? Because that really never happens. Never. Wire information doesn't match the name. The account number is what really matters, and banks aren't responsible for matching names. We do not know how different the names are. I'm going to give you a very local example where the name was just really 2 letters twisted backwards, so anybody with that sort of blink wouldn't pick up on it without really drilling down. The international aspect of the transaction presents its own source of problem. Remember what we said when they went to file back, the guy was in South Africa Presumably.
Where notarizations can happen in different countries differ as to what is legitimate or illegitimate, recognized or unrecognized. But it might be legitimate in that country, not accepted here, is also.
And we usually will be able to provide a list of the proper places for them to go. In this case, he went to the consulate, which is usually the mother load. I mean, that's, you know,
And you would assume that's.
you would assume,
But if
you would assume, but I don't know what the South African consulate,
The complaint, I read the complaint, it said that it was not on the list of acceptable places to get a document notarized.
right,
But it sure seemed legitimate, right?
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Question of consulate.
right, yeah, I mean, so again, now the lessons learned. The type of scheme is common, it's becoming increasingly more common and sophisticated. Easiest and therefore most common with vacant land and non-owner occupied properties, we end up with forged identification and fraudulent notarization, as we just said. And again, you know, the question of why we were saying, did the title insurance company have some culpability, is back to what we were talking about with whether the consulate was proper notarization in South Africa. But Alan's going to talk about this one because we're going to bring it really close to
Right.
home. It'll never happen.
So this is the case, and what I also learned later, which is not in the slides, the person in North Carolina, the real seller, was actively working with an agent to get the property marketed, but not the agent that got called on by the fraudster. So she prepared a listing agreement, sent it to him, but asked him smartly for ID, I think it was that she asked for. And when he sent the ID, was a kind of a middle-aged to maybe some of my age, white fat man. And the person she spoke to on the phone said, this voice that I've been talking to does not match this picture. And so she looked more closely at the picture and she says to me, it looks like it was taken on the beach. Now, I didn't even notice that part, but she was right. The background behind the picture isn't something that you would typically see. Not that we see South Carolina or North Carolina driver's licenses every day. It just looked a little bit odd to her. So these were the flags that were going up. And so this. Oh, okay. Yep. So at this point in time, I go into sleuth mode and I pull up the field card, see what I can, who actually owns the property, what the address is on the tax card, which matched everything so far. The name was right, the address was right, the address that he supposedly lived in North Carolina was all accurate. So then I took a look at the driver's license and the signature looked kind of odd. It didn't even look like the name of the person. To your point a moment ago, I did find a power of attorney that was given by the real owner of the property to his local attorney when he sold his house. So similar to the Fairfield case, he sold his house, retained 2 vacant lots here in Groton. The power of attorney was clearly legible. I mean, almost like the signature was drawn. And I said, okay, we definitely have a fraud here now. I contacted the attorney who was given the power of attorney, Bill, I can't remember right now, but anyways, yeah. So I called Bill and I said, Bill, I think one of your former clients might be getting scammed. He pulls out his file, fortunately, it was a 2021 closing, a 2021 closing, and from his file, he was able to provide me with a number of email addresses and telephone, and actually it took about 5 of them before I actually got the real person. But within 2 or 3 hours, I was talking to the real person on the phone, and at that point we stopped. We didn't go prosecuting or anything of that nature. Or why not? Yeah, they don't care.
No one cares. There's nothing unusual here. The most recent case in Connecticut that we are aware of where a transaction actually happened was in Guilford in January of 2025. In fact, the closing actually happened on New Year's Eve. And I don't know about you, I had like 3 that absolutely positively had to close before the end of the year, and yeah. So anyway, real estate professional was contacted by a scammer posing as a property owner to sell land in Guilford. The land was near a home, so the real estate professional did what good real estate professionals do, go reach out to the person who lives in the house and say, you know what, this is probably best suited for your use, would you be interested? And the people said, yes. The attorney drafted the contract to sell, there was no other agent, okay? So the neighbors worked with an attorney and the listing agent was the listing agent, it's just how it worked. By January 17th, the Guilford Police were issuing a warrant, this is CBS CT. Guilford Police was issuing a warning to residents after a person allegedly tried to sell land that didn't belong to them. And here's what happened. The closing took place on New Year's Eve. I am gonna tell Alan and I already had this discussion. We both know and regularly work with the 2 attorneys that were involved here. These are the good guys. Okay, these are really the good guys. All parties involved, the agent, the attorneys, and the buyer knew each other or knew of each other. All right, that seems to be something that we need to sort of keep focusing on. The transaction was smooth and rather uneventful. The parties did not get together for the closing. We don't do that. The seller was either from out of town or not available at the time. I couldn't quite, get my handle on that from what was provided. The seller, the fraudulent one, however, did have a local connection. So it wasn't as extreme as the Fairfield one. There was going to be a human being that was going to be doing his bidding. Okay, and the scenario was rather typical according to the police. All right, and here are the 3 bullet points they tell you. The person claiming to own the land was out of town. The deal of the transaction happened over the phone. The scam was discovered when the new owners got in touch with another neighbor about their purchase. What happened next? The town is small. The police were contacted and a detective and fraud authorities froze the account to which the money was being wired. Okay, here's the deal. It was a local account. It was a local account in a local bank.
So it was a local fraudster?
Not necessarily, and they're going to understand why the fraudster may not be necessarily local, but remember I said they had a local connection, all right? All right, so they froze the local account. I want you to know that on that Monday morning, the 2 attorneys that were in the transaction brought lawn chairs and sat in front of that big with popcorn and waited for the manager to show up. They were losing their minds. Yeah. And I'm going to tell you something. I lived back to back with one and around the corner with the other. They were losing their minds. So anyway, there was a lot of ability to stem this in a way that couldn't happen if you didn't know each other, and if everybody didn't act in court, if the bank wasn't local and you were, wiring to some Bank of America account. According to police, they're saying, okay, where there's one, there will be more. Guilford Police said in a statement, criminals of these types of crimes are very savvy and will continue to commit title fraud. I read into that they get better and better at it as we catch them. Right? Remember I said before that there's no attorney's best practices prior to this. We have them now, and they unfortunately tell us something that you guys aren't gonna like. That you're not gonna like. It takes all it said that here's what they said, thank you. And we're getting old, and I can't see without that.
You finish each other's sentences.
I said we know, I said 35, we've known each other for 38 years. So again, that played into, I'm gonna tell you, these 2 attorneys, contemporaries of ours, you heard I just said, we know each other. I mean, I even knew the parents of these 2 attorneys. Either not, like, one of them used to advise a real estate association, not. All right. Take all referrals with a grain of salt and vet the potential client, even if the agent referring the file is your friend or relative. This is what the bar is telling us to do now. Ignore client and agent pressure to skip or ignore protective steps because you're taking too long. We never heard that. Meet your client in person or video conference. Try to detect invasiveness. Engage in independent verification services. One more thing the attorneys get to pay for, which is to try to independently verify the the identity of the person who is putting forward a false identity. Yeah, we now have, the blessing of being able to pay for that service. And I just need to say this.
So that, how is that done? Is it like a private?
You know what? I have not, have you done it yet? I haven't done it yet.
No, because I've been pretty fortunate and been able to find these things on my own, but
Yeah.
they're just skip tracing companies. It doesn't cost that much either. $35, $45, they'll give you everything you need to know about that person.
But it will be,
What time you pick up the newspaper in the morning, it's amazing.
right, it is amazing, but that's gonna be a cost, it's gonna eventually become common and passed on to a buyer. Okay, and then the fourth thing is, remember for the attorney for the buyer as well as the attorney for the seller on the hook. So if you're in the transaction, there is no way your counterpart can say, wasn't me, it was them. No, it's on both of the attorneys. So again, we start questioning one another too, which is a little bit of a problem. And the conflicts with urgency and the go fast culture become really clear here. It's an attorney's job to bring everything to a seamless conclusion, correct? We hate the attorneys who, we used to refer to it as make it high mass. We hate the attorneys who belabor closing. We hate the 3-hour closer, like pick all of the negatives you can associate with it. We hate the people who pick the nits too. They make a big deal out of something when the whole point is a successful closing actually closes. The pressure attorneys receive from clients and real estate professionals, you pretty much know it. Our clients are sometimes quite merciless to us. I am always amazed at what they will say outside of interacting with you, what they will say to us. It is amazing to me. I have often said, and I've said it to Alan, gee, I wouldn't have ever said that to me. I would have been afraid to say that to me, but they weren't afraid to say that to me. It's kind of unusual.
You have to train your brain to think differently now. You gotta look at every email address as potentially a fraudulent email address. Every telephone number may be a spoof telephone number, not really coming from the name that comes up on your screen. You have to think this way now, because otherwise if we just, I like to say the faster you make me go, the more my flights are going up the pole and the more I'm gonna slow it down.
And Alan always used to have a saying that it's like a Chinese menu. You can only pick 2 out of 3 columns, good, cheap, and fast. So if it's gonna be good, if it's gonna be good and fast, it won't be cheap. If it's gonna be good and cheap, it won't be fast. You can't get them all into one
Okay, me
sentence.
too, you're getting.
He always used to say it, it never has become more prevalent as now. Being cautious and doing where's one table. Our code of ethics takes time and attention because they're looking at us now. This is exacerbated by the very thing that's fueling the scams, all electronic communication. Think about, some of you were around when we were babies here. Think about how long it used to take just to get the paperwork done. You used to meet with clients, then you'd have to get it to us, you'd either have to drop it off, you'd have to mail it. There was a whole lot of human interaction. When we do it very quickly, it's kind of like a 9-second thing. You pick it up on your screen, you forward it to the next person, it just goes on. We have to sort of go back to being deliberate, not pokey, but deliberate. Recommendations for you, I'm not going to belabor them, you can get the slides. Do much like what Alan just said to you. You have to be deliberate. Make an assumption that everything's a problem and work it that way. If something doesn't sound quite right, there's no shame in asking a question or asking somebody to repeat it or saying I might need to check on that or just checking on it. Get get somebody else who might be in the transaction involved, call one of us. And I need you to be deliberate for yourselves, because look what we have up here. This ties back to what Alan mentioned before. Nobody cares. Right? We always hear, get in touch with the FBI. The FBI has, a fraud alert.
I think the
Department.
2023, I think they handled 95 complaints in the United States on title.
Okay, and handle means loosely.
Yeah, you're right, and 9,500 complaints came in.
Okay,
It's just bigger than what they're able to
and again,
address.
it also requires them to understand when it's real estate related, that real, I mean, all the things that we complained about with the NAR settlement, when you have lawyers that don't understand real estate, that real estate is done differently in every, it's kind of what the FBI is up against. Real estate is not done the same way everywhere. The method you develop can't be one size fits all. Besides the fact, with that number, little numbers don't matter. So, the people, Gina Leto is part of Sky Top Partners LLC. She was the buyer in the, she was the buyer of the land scam case in Fairfield. No one ever contacted her. With all of the publicity this case got, with all of the documentation that was provided to the FBI by the attorneys on all sides of this, because don't forget Keller Williams had to advance attorneys also. Nothing. The FBI has not been involved at all. So again, it sounds good and you find comfort there. Here's the thing. How did the Fairfield case differ from what we're doing here? It came first. I've said it like 12 times. We didn't have best practices, nor was this on the top of mind or the tip of the tongue of any of us, you or the closing attorneys, until this happened. So until that case, the concept of title fraud was essentially unknown. Attorneys' best practices were born out of the case. The new custom of not being together for the closing and to be able to transmit and accept documents electronically and by messenger and all the ways that we've developed this, it's changed the practice for the better. I think there's a lot of positives, but it also changed the practice for the worse.
Becky, I wrote that question down. Could this have been avoided if the closings were in person?
Yeah.
Maybe.
But it's still before COVID, it wasn't
Yeah.
uncommon or unheard
To
of,
not-
particularly to have out of state, out of county attorneys where seller will meet their attorney in Hartford and ship the documents down to us in New London County. So if someone's gonna try to do it, they're gonna get past these types of things.
And the practice of real estate, just right, we didn't pay each other, we do finish each other's sentences in here. It's no longer local. So again, it's helpful if you know each other. The attorneys in the Fairfield case knew each other. So it wasn't really helpful there.
You should also be aware that the title companies on land deals, so if I'm a buyer's attorney handling a land transaction, my title company may require, and they're starting to require this, either the seller's attorney or the listing agent to sign an affidavit before the title company will issue title that says they have personal knowledge of who the seller is and this person selling or signing these documents is that person. So you could get right before closing, where, you know, how we always screw everything up for you at the last minute. When we say, okay, I need an affidavit, my title company requires an affidavit. I'm also gonna analogize it to, I call it the speeding effect. We all do it, right? We all speed. Because by getting from point A to point B is really important to you, and you do a value judgment, and you say the chances of me getting caught speeding is outweighed by my need to get from here to, we'll call it closing, right, to closing. So we kind of not pay attention to the speedometer and we speed, and then we get caught. Then this sucks. $350 fine, what happens? Your foot starts coming off the gas pedal a little bit, maybe for a few weeks. You said, oh, I got caught. But then you start doing it again, you start putting the pedal down. So don't get complacent. We're not talking $350 losses here. That was a multi-million-dollar house being built on that piece of property. Okay, you're talking liabilities in the 5 and 6 figures, not hundreds.
Let's talk about what happened. So, okay, well, there was a bank account. Remember we said the funds were wired. Well, the bank account was obtained with false credentials also. Right? So all I can tell you is the bank account was determined to be untraceable because it was affiliated with a non-person. However, in tracing the numbers, they did find out that there was a similar case in Rhode Island and the same bank account was used. All right, let's bring this a little closer to home. The sting, and I'm so glad to see Melissa Giangrasso here because her brother helped me with this one on the initial part of how the heck do we get this done? A local agent, New London County, and if it is any of you, please do not make your face change. And no one will know. Was asked by a family friend, even personally, to list a piece of land. The seller was older and technologically not savvy. The agent knew that all correspondence and interaction with the seller had to be in person, and the agent met with the seller in person and explained the selling process. So we've got a local doing everything right here, and it's somebody they knew. They could fill out that affidavit beautifully, okay? The agent had all the necessary signed paperwork the old-fashioned way, in hand. When he started to take proper steps, commenced to list the property on the MLS, it appeared that the property was already on the market and for a selling price well below the market value. So what did the agent do? Being courteous, contacts the listing agent that appears on the MLS. And how did she respond? Not well. She informs the real agent, as I will call him, that she's been doing this for more than 40 years, and she doesn't need to be educated by a newer agent on how she does her business. So, and again, there's an interaction that is not pleasant, but the correct questions are asked. So the inquiring agent asks the listing agent if she knew the seller, had she ever met the seller, had she communicated with the seller, why was the land listed for less than market value, did she have identification from the seller, did she pull the field card or the tax, everything that you just asked all of us, this agent was doing. So of course we know what all the answers were.
But she's been doing it for a long time.
But she's been doing it for a long time. All right. Her seller only communicated by email, he wouldn't speak on the phone. Well, there's going to be a reason. She never thought to ask to communicate via video because technology is not her strong suit. The seller was in a hurry to sell the property, and the reason why it was listed for less than market value was to facilitate a quick sale. That's a story as old as time at this point. And it should be a simple transaction. What happened after this is a bit unclear, because some of the communication between the intended listing agent and the misled listing agent was via email. Soon the intended listing agent was contacted by the fraudulent seller, so we don't know how that happened. It's unclear if the email of the misled listing agent was compromised, or if the misled listing agent provided the name of the intended listing agent when she contacted the fraudster to inform him that she was removing the property from the market. The intended listing agent called me. Okay, like me personally. Okay. So the good listing agent called me personally. And the thing began with, I don't want to get in trouble. So how do we do this? We contacted the police department and were directed to the FBI. Yeah. Useless. 3 to 4 months with the FBI taught us for 3 to 4 months with the help of the FBI, we created a closing. We actually had kind of a good time with that part. Unfortunately, the real seller doesn't have his house, doesn't have his land listed while we're trying to do this. For 3 to 4 months, with help with the FBI, we were we were having a good time, remember, like.
You were
we
scamming the
We were
scam.
scamming the scam. We made up, buyers, we made up buyers, we made up addresses for the buyers. It was like one of those things, take your dog's name, that's the first name, you take the house, the street you lived on when you were 5, and that's, we were really doing that, we were scamming. Transaction. The FBI was constantly monitoring what we were doing. I started to communicate with the scammer on a different email address than what was my regular address. However, all you have to do is Google me, you can find. So again, I'm doing the best I can. We're trying to keep things very, very separate. He will not communicate on the phone. If I called, I would always hear, there's static, I can't hear you. The agent and I checked in, the real estate agent and I checked in with the FBI agent almost once a day to go through this. We were just trying to see how we could, and they kept saying, make it longer, give us more time to see if we can. So, we started to kick the can down the road, and they were also telling us, ignore the red flags. There's some red flags coming up, and we're going to ignore them. So, okay. I keep getting to advance to
I feel like I'm watching a Netflix documentary.
you absolutely are. Just we were part of it, and yeah, Melissa's brother. Now that you sat there, I'm like, oh my God, we all started it. And she was not part of it. Thank you. She was not part of the scam. She just happened to have she just happened to have an available chief of police service. We continued friendly communication. We asked to communicate via video. We were told that he was traveling and it probably would be difficult. We started to examine the email address he was using, and as I said, what he did was just reverse the 2 last letters of the person's last name and had an email address. The real person didn't have an email address, so we were safe. We weren't crisscrossing them or in any way, getting them stuck in this, other than the poor guy was told, can you wait? Well, he provided the telephone number. You saw what I said, always a bad connection. All communication from my office, I did from my landline. Never from my cell phone. My cell phone was all of my correspondence. So my landline was at the direction of the,
Why was that?
Suzie.
Use that, use this, use this.
Click on that. Okay, both the agent and I contacted our respective technical advisors to monitor. So we had techie people over our shoulders the whole time. I already told you we created new email addresses. So we kept the transaction going as long as we were directed to do so. There we go. All right, we got a United States passport, Connecticut driver's license with the title holder's name and address, the correct address, the correct date of birth. Here's the issue. They had pictures. They were not of the real guy, and they were also the same picture on the driver's license and on the passport. Full set of seller's documents were emailed to the fraudulent seller, because this fraudulent seller was supposed to be in Florida. So we're not, dealing with, I'm in another country, or I need a consulate from Florida. And the documents came back to us, signed with a real Florida notary seal. In preparation for the fake closing, we contacted the fraudulent seller, asked how we wanted to be paid. I'm waiting for him to tell me that, I'm gonna wire. And I'm gonna have a stroke, because I really don't know how I'm going to, fudge that one up, but we're at it. Surprisingly, yes, we paid via check. He asked that the check be made out to an LLC and provided a California address for delivery. It was a real California LLC, okay? It had a real member that also happened to be the title holder to the address that I am being asked to send a check to. All right, red flag is you only pay who the title holder is. The red flag that we are purposely overlooking is I want you to pay an LLC. Got all of the information, did not balk when I said, I need to know who the recipient is, they're gonna have to sign for the check, this is a lot of money to send. Title company in California was working with us, able to confirm. Yes, this was a real person. Yes, this was a real person who owned the dwelling to which I am overnighting. Yes, and working with law enforcement there, yes, that person was a member of that LLC. And if you remember even here, if you look up members of the LLC, you're not gonna see all the members. You know, if you get on the Secretary of State site, you're just gonna see one, usually the one that's doing the controlling. You're not gonna necessarily see all the component parts. So there, I still don't know, you know, got nothing. In preparation for the fake closing, okay, wait a minute, why am I anticipation? Hang on. It's not doing it.
Are you clicking
I
that?
am clicking
Put it
there.
out right there. There you go.
Nope. You're ready. I want the state to have.
Susie, they can't see the slides on mine.
It's a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Every day is cold to this very day.
It does. Travel's cold. Did you see bullet point number
Yeah.
3 is a particular interest?
Wow. Okay, so
Okay.
where were we? We were on slide number 58 or something. Is this it? Wow. Is this it?
There was this, it said the trail goes cold.
Are we
Now,
here?
go up.
This is right.
No, we haven't got
This
it.
is-
So we'll probably not get there.
Here? No.
Up a little further. That was her. We'll go faster. She said we gotta go faster. Anyway, I want everybody to take a peek at the bullet point. The reason why we had to stop was the very real person didn't have any idea that she was the recipient of funds from the real estate scam.
But they were involved in a little,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Similar fact pattern, the, Gilbert case that I told you, remember I kept saying, but there's a local component to it. Yeah, there's a local component to it who thinks they're doing something great for somebody who's gonna, you know, come here and sweep them off their feet and they're well and happily ever after. That's for another. So anyway, that's where we've got the biggest issue. Is that there's no chase down. So really bigger than anything everybody wants. When it happens, again, it happens to everybody. They are charged, if there's a wire, that's sent, that's wire fraud. If it's sent via FedEx or overnighted, that's mail fraud. So again, you know, you'll say, how would anybody know when they're blaming us? They're blaming us, they're blaming you. There is a slide that we don't have to get into that says, one of the things that has been reported to NAR is that clients do not believe their agents are conveying information in relation to title pilots to them correctly or at all. So again, not only
NAR doesn't believe that we're.
NAR has received complaints. Right. That buyers and sellers do not believe that the agents are properly educating them. Okay, here's what I can tell you. I know you educate on the bottom of all of your emails. I do. I send out documents along with my engagement letters. I send out documents. You want to know what my document, whose documents I used to create my documents, I use the ones that were created by your legal counsels, all of you who have, bigger ones, and then sort of made them, customize them for me. So I know that you're sending out the information, but like with all things, started teaching you in like 1989 and 1990 maybe, and I used to have a slide that used to go up. I used to do the slides. That's the ones that used to be basically a real estate agent at Target.
So all that disclosure you're talking about at the end of our email.
Yep.
That everyone has that I don't have.
Yep. All that, I mean, how much more are we supposed to say? So, who's involved? Both agents, both attorneys, buyer and seller. That's it. And if somebody wants to make the claim, they make the claim. Wow. So again, well, those slides are not changing. Couple of things to ask you. Is your technology up to date? Is it secure? And do you really know how to use it? Because the porosity is usually the agents. Okay? And the clients. We've got kind of two ends of the extreme here. Younger people who are very comfortable with all things electronic, who don't pay attention because they buy into how fast they can go. I told this to Alan not too long ago. I was at a golf tournament, and I was so pleased to see a young attorney doing her wiring from a green. Okay. On her phone. She's like, always working, always working. You don't have to impress me because I think you're doing something really stupid right now. That's just me. Always working, and don't go to the golf tournament. I don't know what you want me to say. In the alternative, we have people who are older, much like that agent who said she was not, really technologically savvy, who aren't looking for those little nuances. Remember I said the real issue was that email was just the last two letters of the person's name reversed. And if you have an L and a T and you reverse the T and the L, your eye's not going to catch it unless you really look. Similarly, if you don't have this in your soul, you're not going to think that other people do.
Yeah. I had a piece of land I was working on in North Stonington that a buyer wanted to purchase and reached out to the homeowner to purchase it. A couple of years. We're finally going to close, but coincidentally, in the meantime, I got a call from a scammer who asked me to list that piece of property. And I thought that was, and it was in the name of Dorothy Davis et al. I didn't know who Dorothy, I had contacted, researched, and found the daughter in New York. And that's the person for 2 years I was communicating with. And when I got that call, and it was from a foreign voice man who said, "This is Dorothy Davis." And I was driving, and the address was like, geez, I know that address. But it had been, 2 years of just trying to reach out to this family, and eventually they were gonna sell it. And I happened to call the lady in New York, and I said, "Hey, Cynthia, I thought it was maybe a sibling." And I called her and said, I got a call from Dorothy Davis, who said that she wants me to list the piece of land. She said, "Marilyn, that's my mother. She's been dead for 25 years. So then I realized this was a scam. And Greg Hanner and I tried to put together to scam the scammer like you guys
Don't
did.
bother.
Well, I tried
Waste of
It's a
time.
backfire.
Well, I talked to a local attorney who, I went in and I said, "If I gave you a client, would you know if they were out of state?" He said, "No, I would trust that you knew them based on, you're giving them to me." And I was like, oh, that's an eye opener.
Yeah, we did.
Right?
But that's all.
Because I want to know, I mean, how do you vet the body, do the attorneys do that?
Now we do.
Yeah,
Now we do.
But,
But who would have thought before? And again, that whole thing about we all trust one another. And we work together for one, that works for everybody. There are a ton more slides. We're not gonna do them. I can get home here where they are. I'm sure we can do a traveling roadshow if you insist on seeing us in person. But,
I had one recently that in Waterford, and I knew it wasn't the family because the family was a prominent Waterford family. And this guy was, had a very thick accent that this family does not have. And so I contacted the family here. The person who owns it lives in Arizona. And they said, yeah, it's not. And so I told him he wasn't the real owner, and he hung up on me. And I put it on an automatic search if it came on the market, and it did with another agent. And I called the agent. I said, you know, that's a scam. And
Was
so,
it Oscar
Were they nice? Were they nice or were they like?
they were nice. They were nice, and they took it down. They called the person and said, I found out you're not the real owner, and they hung up on her too. But I've now got that property address on an automatic search if it ever comes on to call the agent.
Right, we had one that was under deposit in our office, and it was with a local attorney, and the local attorney was going to purchase the piece. And it was almost to closing, and then we figured out it was a scam, and it was not the people that they said it was.
And then that lot came on again.
And that lot,
Yeah.
and it was very close to a transfer of $200,000.
And understand, we're talking all about, criminal behavior and being in the lawsuits and stuff. You then run your parallel track of how many ethical violations you have. And again, you don't even realize that it's happening. So,
With that guy in North Stonington, when I realized he was scamming, I said, okay. He said, he didn't want to sign up. He wanted to, what did I think of the price? And I knew what the price was, what it was worth, just because I had researched it for my own buyer. And I told him like this ridiculous number. And he goes, all right, put it on the market for that. Like, he didn't even question it, put it on the market. So I actually sent him the listing agreement, and he signed it. And I thought, oh, now I have proof he signed it fraudulently. And he said he didn't, and I said, oh, Quinn, when I started to try to scam the scammer with Greg, he said, I called him and I said, oh, I texted him, I have it on my text. I said, I have chatting with another agent in my office. He has a buyer, he would write an offer at this. He goes, write it up and send it over. I'll sign it. But he didn't want to sign. He didn't want, and I asked him, well, that's your best advertisement. Why don't you want to sign? And he said, I don't want my friends, my relatives to know that I'm selling this land because they'll ask me for money. I mean, there were so many,
they kind of
things
have
that
a ship
come out.
down.
Yeah,
I'm
they
gonna
do.
guess they're,
But I researched before, even the address that they gave me, the email was, Dorothy Davis at Gmail. It was the address that I said I need an address. He gave me an address. It was an apartment building in California. I looked up, who the owner, I was like trying to figure it out, but they're sly.
If they're good, they're good.
Mhm.
All right, do we have any other questions on this topic? If not, hopefully you guys learned something today on that.
That's really good.
Thank you, Val. Thank you,
Presentation.
Alan. Cathy. You want to go through your list of things, next?
I wanted to talk, number one, about participation in e-car events, and our participation is so low right now, and I wanted help from everyone to spread the word. Our last couple of membership meetings had like 30 people signed up, and I think for tomorrow's event, yesterday we had 9. I would like help getting the word out and encouraging people to participate. That's number 1 on my list. Number 2 is office visits. Susie and I are willing to do office visits, come to your office and speak to your agent. So if we can help you in any way, please reach out to Susie or myself, and we'd love to schedule.
We have 6 actually scheduled for the month of April, so that's good. We have an upcoming membership meeting on April 9th, which is a fair and affordable housing meeting. Cindy Butts will be there talking about what the association is doing to advocate for more housing and, more fairness in housing, as well as somebody from HUD and CHFA, I forget who else, from, CHEO, who will provide the housing needs assessment. If you guys have had somebody in your office who has never been to a membership meeting, there is no charge to go. And we are ramping up with our live streaming. So if nothing else, you can encourage your agents to please watch these meetings, and then there will be a recording after. My understanding is that the content has been really good for the last 2 membership meetings, but Cathy's right, the attendance has not been great, so I'm not sure why, but we're providing the content, we just need people to come to the meetings. Let's see. We had a DEI committee meeting this morning. They talked about, they looked at our member demographics versus the population versus, who are our realtors. And there is such a disparity in our members versus the population. For example, 93% of our membership is white. And then all the other categories are just so low versus the population. And the only thing I got from the consensus data was New London County. And just to compare that, 51% of the population in New London County is white. Big disparity. Like 34% is Hispanic, I don't know, 18% is Black, and so on. So they're talking about how to increase representation of our members. How can we get realtors who are not white to become realtors and tap into the niche of home ownership that is so much lower than the average homeowner who is white? And one of the things that I want you guys to know about is we do have a scholarship program, the YPN scholarship. If you know somebody who has a financial need, they could conceivably get reimbursed for the $500 it costs to get their pre-licensing school done. After that, once they get their license, we have a mentorship program. This one is a DEI mentorship program, so an underserved group. If you know of anybody that is interested in being a realtor, they can get their pre-licensing school paid for, reimbursed. After that, if one of you were willing to sponsor somebody who is applying for this, you would have to actually apply on their behalf. It's a group thing, the 2 of you together, a mentee and a mentor, and it has to be signed off by a broker. That person, you have to be willing to give 10 hours a week of supervision. Just kind of check in with them, teach them a few things along the way. And if you are willing to do that, I think it might be for 6 months, that person will get a year's worth of ECAR dues, all their dues paid, as well as a year of Smart MLS. So in that way, we can encourage more realtors, and it's a win-win for you guys. You guys will get another agent on board. So I wanted to make you aware of that.
Question.
Mm-hmm.
How is that information being disseminated to people if those of us who are white have that information, the chances of us being in a situation where we would, so maybe an outreach to churches, like Black churches and Hispanic churches?
That's a fantastic point you're bringing up, and the DEI committee is going to be looking into that.
Okay, good.
But I did say, since I have a broker forum, I bet there's a lot of you that don't even know this stuff exists. And for the last 3 or 4 years, it's been out there, and we have not had one person take advantage of it. And probably because
a person like me is not going to be running into the people who would benefit from this.
Thank you, Jen.
What about our minority members, like the Spanish-speaking agents that we have?
Yeah.
Have you reached out to them?
I don't know who they are.
Okay.
So all of that
How do
is.
you not know who they are if you know our demographics?
The National Association of Realtors has in their M1 database, they have the ability to provide demographics for us. So we can get a graph that says of eCars membership, this many are white.
I thought we
That
did,
doesn't mean I can go into somebody's record. We have started that and it's optional. The member has to be willing to
Perhaps,
provide that information.
perhaps an email blast or to our newsletters, are you Hispanic or you
speak
you
another
speak
language.
another language or we
Yeah.
need you for outreach?
Yeah, but here's an example of the demographics. I can send this all to you as well. So we've got share by age, gender, race, share of race by tenure, share of gender by tenure, share of age by tenure. So all interesting information. I just wanted to make you guys aware of this stuff, that the DEI committee is going to be engaging in trying to increase representation of our membership so it's more representative of our communities so we can increase home ownership in these communities. Okay, moving on.
I don't understand. I mean, do you really think that if there's that someone's not gonna buy a house because there's no one, that they're only gonna go to someone who's of the
But
same.
most people more likely, people like to work with someone they know.
Right.
So a person of a certain ethnicity or background would be more attracted to working with an agent who looks like them and talks like them.
Understood.
Not to say they wouldn't work with somebody else,
Right.
but.
Yeah, the answer to your
Yeah.
question is not a
Yeah.
broad-based yes or no. How many of you guys know there was a DCP update? It was a live webinar that you guys could be involved in. Hopefully you were part of that. That happened on March 6th. And I will send you this document. There is a link to the video recording. It's about an hour long, and I do recommend that you watch it all. But I'll highlight a couple of the notes that I took from watching it myself. So that the phrase is no longer salesperson, it is real estate licensee. And there is a supervised licensee, and then there is a supervising licensee. Just so you know that. On the agency disclosure unrepresented parties form, that is in section 2325D2. Unrepresented agency disclosure, a licensee upon request making written disclosure of who the firm is and its agents present unless such party has entered into another representation agreement with another licensee. The noticed unrepresented party, this is given on request. You're not required to do this unless it is asked of you or the identity of your client. Make sense? Previously, the notice was the old form, number 2, real estate agency notice given to unrepresented parties. That's obsolete now. It's called the agency disclosure unrepresented parties form, and it's given on request. Not to be confused with the prospective parties form. Anyone thinking about using a licensee should be given this form at the first meeting. And then there is the dual agency and the dual designated agency form. Those are on our website, okay? They are identical except for the title. One is called the dual agency form, the other one is called the dual designated agency form. Okay, folks can refuse to sign an unrepresented form. The disclosures are not required at an open house, provided that disclosure of agency relationship is displayed conspicuously. All right, I want to get to some new subsections on advertising. And it's kind of categorized in stuff for licensees and supervising licensees. For print advertising, any salesperson or associate broker advertising in print shall include in such advertisement, A, the name of the salesperson or associate broker, and the phone number or email address. That is new. It didn't used to be required to have the phone number. Such advertisements shall also include the name of the supervising licensee and the phone number or email address. And for any print advertisement, the supervising licensee's contact information shall be both in the same font or a larger size as the salesperson or associate broker information. For social media, any salesperson or associate broker advertising via publishing or posting on a social media website or computer or mobile phone A text message or similar messaging service or email shall include the name of the salesperson as it appears on their license, prominently displayed, and a link to an internet website that complies with the requirements for internet website. So it's not enough to just have your name on a text message. You've got to have a link to their website.
So there's like with, I have a Droid and they switched from Verizon messages to Google messages. Does anyone know how to put a,
So what I do,
I can't put
is-
a signature on that.
so what I know, I did the same thing, but I did, the shortcuts, and so I put ZZZ, and I already, and once I do that, it types in my name.
So every time you send a message, you have to type that in?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. You can take that up offline. As far as internet goes for licensees, any salesperson, associate, broker advertising on an internet website shall prominently display on each page of the website the name of the salesperson as it appears on their license, the phone number or email, and the last date on which property information shown on the internet website was revised, unless the property information is updated automatically as changes are made in the MLS. Such internet website shall also include on each name the name of the supervising licensee and their phone number and email. And then it goes on with the supervising licensee. So does this all make sense to you guys? Is this all new information or does you have?
And it's a whole bunch of bullshit.
It's irrelevant, right? There's no consequence. Right? What's the consequence? I could bring
If
you,
somebody reported you, I guess they could follow up.
I could bring you the paper in tomorrow, about 20 ads, with 18 of them not.
You wouldn't be bringing it to me. You would be bringing it to the real estate.
Well, I'm saying anybody,
An
but I'm
examiner.
saying that.
Yeah.
There's no consequences, man. It's so blatant out there, it's ridiculous.
They just don't know.
You don't know, yeah,
No.
some don't care, right, most don't know. But you look at the ad, but nobody's policing, nobody cares, so, I care.
You have an agent, even on, every agent on Facebook has their promotion with their name and their team number, without the broker, without the office phone number.
So, a couple of Q&A things, referral status, according to DCP, not according to NAR, but according to DCP, there is no such thing as referral status. That's something you arrange with your broker as a way not to have that brokerage working with the MLS. So example, a brokerage sets up a separate entity of all the people who really want to do referrals, and that entire entity does not participate in the MLS. But as far as they're concerned, if you were to call them, they would tell you that there is no referral status or difference in your license status. Can a broker pay a licensee to a business they have set up? No. Salespeople cannot be licensed as a business ever, so you must pay the salesperson. Salesperson cannot have a DBA.
Pay the broker.
Right.
What, say that again? The broker can't pay an LLC?
The salespeople cannot be licensed as a business.
A salesperson can't be licensed, but a broker can.
So a salesperson cannot ever have a DBA ever. They can have a nickname if it is approved by DCP. All right, custodial broker, if the broker passes away or becomes incapacitated, there is an online process to replace the broker. It requires support documentation. The difference between a supervising licensee and a designated broker. Supervising is responsible for supervising another licensee or team. The designated broker is responsible for the entire brokerage. Hopefully this is all making really easy sense to you. They didn't know the answer to if you have a little league outfit sponsorship. Is that print media and is everything required? And they didn't have an answer for that. A signage that doesn't meet new requirements must be replaced to comply with the law. And those are my notes from that hour, but I'm gonna send this to you, and at the very top of it is the link to the video recording.
So that was from DCP.
Mm-hmm.
So someone has a sign down at the Little League field and it's the agent and who they are.
On the t-shirt was the question. I think on a billboard is a different story.
On a t-shirt.
They understood that all the phone numbers and the this and the that might be hard, so
You
they
can't put it on a t-shirt, right?
So, anyway. We are now at the broker open forum, so, what's on your minds?
So did they get any, suggestion for the t-shirts? Cause we sponsored.
No, they didn't. They took it down as something they had to come back with.
Yeah, I think
Like I've done that before, and you're just like, sorry, you get free lunch.
And that's hard enough just to get your company.
Correct.
Just put I just sponsored the team and I didn't put my name on it, I put the company, so you're welcome. I just put the company on it.
Is there anything that you guys want us to work on for the next broker forum? Is there, anything that's out there that's happening that you see that is, not working for you?
today's person doesn't.
That was excellent. This should be given to our agents, though. Could be a member meet, I don't know if it's a lunch and learn, but it's definitely important information.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of it is, as a new agent, which I'm not, but as a new agent, if you got a call to list a piece of land, you're gonna jump all over. So, and that's really, I don't know what property you were talking about, but there was a couple new agents who were involved in a single piece of land in Waterford that was listed a couple times, and they just ran with it.
Scary part, you get legitimate emails, it makes you wonder. I was denied a line of credit, because Bank of America sent me emails, and I kept deleting them. They wanted a copy of my insurance binder. I kept deleting them, and I got a letter in the mail saying, denied your loan. You gotta be kidding me.
Yeah.
I called them up, we didn't respond to us.
Yeah.
You didn't, why don't you tell me you're gonna email me? Because
Yeah.
I got one from one bank, so realistic, I almost responded to this, I'm looking at it, go, but I didn't have that bank. But it's crazy, because now, I have a habit of deleting legitimate emails now for that.
Well, the fraudsters they're figuring out a way to not just twist a couple, like they can get your actual email address and,
So I had
impersonate it.
And I had one situation that happened to me just last month. We had a rental on the market. And somebody. So they created a Zillow account with my picture, my information, everything would look like me. But there was a link to an application, so we had the Groton Police Department is involved. They actually took an application fee. My agent actually met with the people and told them you're not qualified. But she was foolish enough thinking, oh, maybe they said, maybe I can apply or whatever. So she went on and did the application and they took her money. So I had to dispute it with Zillow to get my thing down because I didn't put it out there. So somebody got this girl's money.
Wow.
I did
Well,
have.
and if they got her application, then now have their social security number.
Everything. And so the Groton Police, this was in Groton, so the Groton Police Department is following up with it. But
Well-
I had no idea what was even happening. I had no idea. Then the lady called me up and she's like, well, you said I was denied, but I'm like, I didn't get your money.
So
On that note, somebody's been sending out emails saying they're from me to the board of directors.
or Amanda as treasurer or something like
And
that.
mentioning Amanda as the treasurer, that she doesn't know how to do Venmo, and can you help me? And it's not my email address, so they didn't get into my email address, but they're pretending to be me.
But they got the names of the
And
parties.
they have all the names of the parties drafted.
So, we'll just end the session. Thank you so much for coming, today, all of you. I want to make sure that, simple things that like Robert Siciliano told us, make sure you're using two-factor authentication for pretty much everything, right? And all associations are required to have a, cyber security policy, and I recommend that you guys think about that for your offices. And one of the things that we have to do, which will be on my list of things, is to have one of those password managers. Because if you're saving that on your computer and you've got pages of username and password and somebody takes over your email, it's game over for you. So there's a lot to do with cybersecurity, and I think this was kind of eye-opening, but if we don't have anything else, then we're gonna, okay.
So I don't know if this is the place to bring it up or whatever, but, we were at that, professional standards training last week, right, Carol, a couple days ago, was it? I think it was Thursday. And, you know, there's a lot of things that happen with our agents that aren't being reported. And you just, like, how do we monitor these ads and things like that? Years ago, we had e-cops. You wouldn't know what that was, but that was when we owned our MLS. And if an agent, does anyone know what e-cops is other than? Okay, so years ago when we owned our MLS, e-cops were agents that volunteered to monitor the MLS. And if an agent had a violation, if something was wrong, you pick up the phone and you say, hey, I'm calling, I'm an e-cop and you have this wrong. So before it got to the MLS or it got to, you know, you were being fined by, or brought up on some charges or whatever, at least you were given a courtesy. But it also could be if I saw something that Cathy did wrong, but I don't want to confront Cathy with it, I could call an e-cop and say, hey, could you, you know, Cathy did this wrong. I don't want to, you know, tell Cathy or I don't want to tell Ruth or whatever, but could you just call and let them know that it's been mentioned, it's been noticed and you need to straighten this out. Is that something that we, who decides to do something like that? If we want
So, that did come up several years ago. There was a suggestion to have our own code of ethics, ECAR's own sort of processes in addition to the national, and that is absolutely prohibited.
Not our own, it's just if you see something, say something kind of thing. Not that we want to go after our members, but if we can note, if we see something and we mention it to them.
Well, if it's in the MLS, you have report a violation opportunity in the MLS.
Right, but sometimes it's just a courteous call, a call to say, hey, I just, you know, want to bring this up. Like I had an agent the other day and I happen to know the agent and they posted something and I didn't think they should have posted it. You know, I didn't think they had the credentials to post that. And I called and I said, you know, do you have, you know, just, I didn't know you did this type of business. And she wasn't aware that she needed special coverage for it. So it was just a courtesy. And it was just not that, you know, it wasn't, anyway.
I think it's tough anyways, because even on the MLS, when you report, I think there's some agents that know it takes, the MLS will give them 24 hours to take it down once once the violation is found, and they do it intentionally. I noticed an agent, you know how you're not supposed to say, please call me? This agent specifically said, please only call the listing agent when you want information on this, blatantly right in the MLS, public remarks. And I think it's one of those things, this is something I've noticed for this one particular agent multiple times. I think they know that the MLS takes a certain amount of time, say, hey, you've got until like midnight tonight to take this down.
So they can put
But
it
isn't
in.
there self-policing, can you guys report violations as well to the MLS?
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
what I'm saying
it takes MLS time to get it down.
It does.
And so then they just do it again.
Yep.
And then it takes the
They
MLS time.
know the.
Carol, does the MLS know if those are anonymous when you click on the violation, potential violation?
No, they don't.
They don't know who reported it?
Yes, they do.
They do.
They send you an email back.
They do.
An email back.
They do, because
Because
I've done
this
it.
is what we did, either we've contacted the person to fix a violation.
Yeah, I always get one.
I have never gotten any, I mean, if somebody like, you know,
Are you
put
doing
some,
the error, clicking on?
yeah, the error thing, I've never gotten a notice back.
Yeah.
Huh.
They'll also tell you if it's not a violation, if you reported it. Like, a lot of times you'll see somebody put it in multiple times because they're putting it under multifamily and or commercial, and it's in there multiple times. Then
Right.
if
They don't
it's-
cross.
They'll let you know if it's okay or not. Yeah, they always send an email back.
Yeah.
But I think you are right, though, because they do, having been on MLS board several years ago, for many years,
There are people that call it the cost of doing business, they don't care.
Yeah.
And it's like, if it's $50 fine, well, I'm gonna make, $15,000, I'll pay the $50 fine, I don't care, I'm gonna do it. So it's unfortunate, but I think what Marilyn's talking about is, we need to try to make ourselves better. This is a room full of brokers. You need to police your people better. I mean, I did a professional standards hearing this morning, and one of the things I said to the broker on the thing was, are you listening? Because this is your agent, you need to, to provide better education. This is not good. So we're the ones that they all look up to. And that's why all the fines for brokers have been doubled at the state level when you get caught.
So you're just saying it just like a friendly,
Yeah.
a more friendly kind of, FYI, hey, I saw that you might want to be aware. Instead of, I'm riding you out.
Yeah. If I pick up the phone and just call someone and say, hey, you did this wrong.
Sometimes they don't even realize, right? Or
They
like,
don't.
oh my God, and then they fix it, and
Yeah.
then they'll realize next time.
But if you're calling with some kind of authority, like, hey, I'm an e-cop or whatever you want to call it, I'm on the,
I don't have the authority anymore, so it's not us.
I name you all e-cops.
I think some of it is people just don't know, like if you're on Facebook or any social media, does everybody know that you put something under deposit with another agent co-broke, you can't put that on your Facebook page and say that you're the buyer's agent for that.
Yeah.
You don't have permission to do that. People do it every day.
I had an agent do that not too long ago, posted a pending that was my listing, and I called her and I said, it's nice that you're promoting my listings, but you don't have my permission to do so. I said, had you asked, I would have said it's okay. And so then she sent back and said, can I do it? And I said, yeah, you can now that you asked, but it's just that they just don't know.
And after it closes, it's okay, but not when it's an active. To your point.
When they're alone, when their client.
The buyer agent can advertise that they were the buyer's agent.
I've also
After it
noticed
closes.
other agents poach other agents' photos, and when they
Oh.
relist the house, they're using a photo from 3 years ago, from when it was listed prior. I've seen that twice in the last month.
And you can call them and say, you
Yeah.
don't have permission. I had a commercial agent use photos of mine, and I called him and I said, you don't have permission, take them down.
Yeah.
He didn't ask me, and I didn't say it's okay to do,
Right.
just take them down.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I could be.
Cathy, do you have any questions as long as you're on Zoom? How are you? Cathy, you
She's
French?
on
She's
mute.
looking for the mute button.
She's the only one that's on Zoom. I'm just gonna say another thing while we're talking about social media. Agents that are out there putting things you see.
Hi, guys, sorry.
Or things you see at walkthroughs, they should be. You can't
Or
put
posting
pictures of
people's
other people's
animals.
homes on there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why they're doing that.
They don't know, they're not being trained.
I'm sorry, I missed that, but what were you saying,
Well,
Carol?
there's agents that have things that they wrote right at the top of their social media, things you see on showings, and they'll show pictures of inside of people's houses, and it's like, okay, you've got a casket in the basement, or whatever it is, but
Good
you don't have
social
permission
media,
to
but
do that.
violation of code of ethics.
yes, there's somebody who does things on animals, somebody said, here's the animals that I saw today, or you can't do that, you don't have permission to, the first time a seller sees that, you didn't give them permission, they wanna see you, there's another lawsuit.
Yeah.
There was a post on social media the other day, I think I told you, Carol. And, there was a post, and an agent posted about a bad situation that she had when she went to show a property. And she went on and on and on about it, and she didn't list, the listing agent made a comment which she never should have made about.
It was a 10-5 violation all day.
Yeah, so anyway, she did, but the agent who posted it did not say who the agent was, but said where the house was and what the price was. Okay, so it took me 2 clicks, because I'm nosy. It took me
Other people who responded
Oh, there were hundreds of comments, expose her and tell them who it is, that person never should have said that, blah, blah, blah. And it was 2 clicks and you could figure it out. I'm thinking, why did you post that? Report them. Don't put it on social media, just report it.
Well, Cindy Butt saw it, and she
Oh, yeah,
posted
saw it.
the link to
Yeah.
go to file on that.
Yeah. And there should have been a charge filed based on what she said.
Under the post.
But you said something about, and I wrote it down, about we're not getting people at the membership meetings and they're not coming. And that starts, I've said this 1,000 times in the past, it starts at the broker, the owner, the manager on that level. And you've got to get your people to come to these meetings. You know, you got to rally the troops. I mean, Ruth, you know, you're a manager. You know, Ruth brings her people to meetings. I brought my people to meetings. You've got to rally. Carol brings her people to meetings. I mean, you probably all do, but you know, you've got to pass that information on. It's just, so you can get to the broker owners, you're not going to get the participation.
Well, we are asking for it, so thank you so much. Cathy, did you have any, last comments before I shut down the Zoom?
No, just nice to see everybody's face.
As well. Be well, thank you so
Bye.
much.
Thank you.